give this a shot after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young, not on step milk. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today, I kind of want to just do this thing where I go through the ESPN Football Power Index and see what we come up with. If for no other reason than I find it sort of shocking that the number one team, according to some, is not the number one team in this index. But also, when you take into account this index is really just about predictive, right? It's taken into a lot of different factors, not the least of which is how much of your roster returned from last year, how much of that production is actually valuable production, who you played, when you played them, and then match you up against other teams, right? So like flavor text here. The Football Power Index is a measure of team strength that is meant to be the best predictor of a team's performance going forward for the rest of the season. FPI represents how many points above or below the average a team is. So this is all based on projected or based on like 10,000 simulations. So they go through it a couple times. But having Ohio State at number one, I think most people would agree with that who've been watching Ohio State play football. I've certainly been watching Ohio State play football. I've certainly seen Chase Young be a holy terror out there. My man is running around like the Predator. And it's not even that Justin Fields is bad. It's that he might be the third best player on his own team. And that might not even be true if he was playing in Georgia. He might be the best player at Georgia. But with J.K. Dobbins in the backfield and Chase Young on the other side of the ball, you understand why they've just been chewing people out, particularly on defense. They didn't even need Baron Browning against Northwestern to just skull drag them and stomp them. They are legit on the back end with Jordan Fuller and Jeffrey Okudah. Chris Olave out at, wide receiver. You can keep going on and on about how good Ohio State is, but I don't think that this argument that they ain't played nobody holds up anymore, folks, because look, they played Michigan State, they beat them like they stole something. They played Wisconsin, they beat them like they stole something. Perhaps the best team in the American nobody's talking about, Cincinnati, got blanked by them 42-0. And that's Cincinnati's only loss. That's why I say they're the best team that nobody's talking about. I understand that Memphis and SMU are going to paddle for some divisional supremacy in there, but people really should be talking about Cincinnati in the way that they talk about Southern Methodist and, of course, Memphis. And, yes, Central Florida. Because, yeah, I know they took the L's, but they can still turn out a lot of offense, and they can still get you. Number two, we see Alabama. I don't find that particularly shocking. I do think that that's gonna play out, right? Because Tua Tagovailoa, we expect to be back. Nick Saban called him a game-time decision, for which, cool. If you want to lie to me. But your game-time decision is that Tua Tagovailoa is going to play. And he's going to play with this bevy of wide receivers that is really good, and these running backs that really are better than people understand. And I think Brian Robinson actually needs some more carries over there. But for them, it's all about the defense, right? The front seven features 4 true freshmen. I've been over this. But DJ Dale, along with Shane Lee, along with Christian Harris, dudes can play, right? Justin Igwe, he can play, right? And I've already got a lot of stock into what they got, particularly at defensive back with Patrick Surtain Jr., Xavier McKinney, Trevin Diggs. You can go on and on. I mean, Xavier McKinney was the pick for the Jim Thorpe Award semifinalist, but if you look at him compared to Trevin Diggs, if you look at him compared to Patrick Surtain, all you get is wildly impressed. And Pete Golden took over what was already great defense, and he's had to patch it together with the loss of Dylan Moses and a number of other individuals, to say nothing of losing their top recruit in the 2019 class to the portal in Alfano. Look, I think Alabama is better than we want to say that they are because they haven't been doing Alabama stuff here of late, all right? So, Clemson at number 3. All right, I got a problem with that, but again, this is based on who they're going to play next and how likely they are to beat them. Predictive, right? Nobody expects Clemson to lose a game. Okay, it'd be like Oklahoma losing to Kansas State. It would be shocking to most, right? But they still got a Wake Forest in there, and maybe Wofford can shock us all. They got to play the ACC championship. We don't know who they're going to face in there, but you got to believe that they're going to cakewalk through this conference that might be the 6th best of the 10 FBS conferences that we have to pull from. Trevor Lawrence, when he's good, he's really good. When he's bad, doesn't matter because Brent Venables' defense has been playing lights out even after losing 3 starters on the defensive line in the first round of the draft. They're just replacing dudes like you read about. Isaiah Simmons is a first-round draft pick just waiting to be plucked. Get on him if you haven't already. Then at number 4, we got LSU. So the reason this is interesting to me is LSU is the new AP number 1. I don't agree with that. I've already said I think Ohio State should be number 1. But LSU is undefeated, having beaten what was then a top 10 Texas team, has since suffered 3 losses. 1 to LSU, 1 to Oklahoma, and again, 1 to Texas Christian over the last weekend. But it's also got more to do with not who LSU's played, but how they've played, right? Because we want to give them credit for beating up on Texas and give them credit for beating up on Florida. And we'll give them credit, they beat Alabama. And that's going to be the test. That's going to be what everybody's going to compare. Because rather than compare your loss to their loss, compare your win to their wins, is also just kind of chance. You know, your schedule is your schedule based on how good that team happens to be in that year. Or more to the point, how good we think that team happens to be in that particular year. So LSU, whether or not you believe they're number 1 or not, they're going to get an opportunity to prove it. Beat Alabama, right? That's what it is. I like LSU. I love Ed Orgeron. I think Joe Burrow has turned into much more of a player than I thought. Excuse me. Been holding that cough in for a couple of days now. Yeah. It's been like 48 hours. I've been waiting to cough. But I also think that he's got these triplets at wide receiver and Justin Jefferson and, my goodness, Terrence Marshall. They'd be really good over there offensively. And whether or not you want to give it to Ensminger or you want to give it to Joe Brady, them throwing the ball has changed the way that we view LSU, because since their discovery of the forward pass, everybody wants to crown them, even as Oklahoma continues to lead the nation in offense and production, and we can go on and on and on here. But I understand why you want to do it. The thing is, their defensive front 7 isn't as good as we're used to seeing from LSU. Although they've been good on the back end, they've also given up a lot of yardage on the back end. I think Derek Stingley Jr. might be, if not the best defensive back in the country, 1B. I think he's that good as a true freshman. I also serve on the Jim Thorpe selection committee. And hey, man, I get outvoted. It's a thing. That's why that's why it happens. But I'm already out there. I really love what Derek Stingley's been able to do. And when Dave Aranda says, I would want to play that game get kid in a bowl game, like the one that they played against Central Florida that he just wasn't eligible to play, and Derek Stingley Jr. skipped the All-America Bowl so that he could get to LSU and start practicing immediately. And then you got guys like Grant Delpit, who is a semifinalist for this award, saying, nah, man, he's at least a sophomore. There ain't no freshman out there. And they all treat him like he's grown. You understand what I'm getting at. But also, I mentioned Delpit. You got him playing safety. You got Christian Fulton that you can rely on. They're good. They just have been torched when they've been torched. And as my buddies at College Football Nerds like to say, they gave up a bunch of points and yardage to Vandy, to which I'm going, all right, fine. But for those of you that want to argue with me, take it up with the 16-team playoff, you know? I've also said, my man's Daniel. I love him. He's one of my better buddies, especially on this platform. But have it out with me. Let's debate this 16-team playoff. Let's go. Let's get it. Come on. I know you want to. Let's go. All right, so at number 5, Penn State, based on who they're going to play, meaning they're probably going to beat down a Minnesota team that a lot of people can't wait to see beat down because nobody really expects them to do much. I get that, but right now they're 8-0 like everybody else. And yes, they really ain't played nobody. And their best win might be a bad Nebraska. All right, so they desperately need to beat up on Penn State. And Penn State needs to keep right on rolling straight through to Ohio State, who they get an opportunity to face right before Thanksgiving to see who comes out of that division. That's going to be a really big game. All James Franklin's kids got to do is keep it together. Georgia at number 6, ahead of Oklahoma at number 7. Again, based on who you're going to play next, I think that means that most people would expect Georgia to beat Florida in the world's largest cocktail party in Jacksonville. I think that win does a lot for them and vaults them back into the college football playoff conversation. If nothing else does, they'll have an opportunity. They keep winning games to do in the SEC championship, where we expect them to face an LSU or a Bama and see what's what. I don't know what this means for Oklahoma, except that you got the bye week. You're going to work it out. You're going to try to figure out what you're going to do the rest of the way. Iowa State wouldn't want to be you coming into Norman for a 7 o'clock game a week after Oklahoma got beaten Manhattan by Kansas State. I don't know that that's the spot you want to be in if you're Iowa State. And this is the part where I say Lincoln Riley is undefeated in the month of November, which is cattywampus to how Oklahoma has performed in the month of October. Oklahoma has not played a flawless October since 2004. All right, it's really that bad. And while we're at it, I just want to throw this note in here, and my man Tanner Broderus actually pointed this out. Through 36 games, Lincoln Riley is 31-5. How does that compare to all-time greats, right? Through 36 games. Nick Saban's at 24-13. Dabo Swinney's at 21-15. Urban Meyer's at 28-8. Bear Bryant, 24-11. Then we got Bobby Bowden at 25-11. And then we got Woody Hayes at 25-9-2. And then we got Joe Paterno at 28-7-1. Tom Osborne at 28-7-1. Steve Spurrier at 22-13-1. And then Jimbo Fisher at 27-9. But I need to add this. All of the coaches on this list have won a national championship. And while I love Lincoln Riley, and I think that he is the best play caller working today, and he is the best offensive coordinator in football today, he ain't won the big one. And until he wins the big one, I don't want to talk like he's one of the greats of all time. And I need to add here, he was not handed a clunker. Like Dabo Swinney was handed a clunker. Nick Saban was handed a clunker. I mean, we're talking about, my goodness, Urban Meyer wasn't handed a hoopty, but he was given like a Honda Civic, a 2000 Honda Civic that he needed to soup up. You know what I mean? He needed to put the turbocharger on. He got to put the right rims on it. It was just, a Honda Civic when he took it over. And I mean, that goes for all of these coaches for the most part, to save Jimbo Fisher. I mean, Lincoln Riley was handed the equivalent of a Ferrari and said, don't wreck. I mean, yeah, if you've never driven a Ferrari before, maybe you're intimidated by that. And we give Lincoln Riley credit for that because, again, 31-5. But you ain't won a national championship. Okay, so I wonder, when's he going to win a national championship? Because both Barry Switzer and Les Miles, in my day and age, took over a Ferrari and won a championship with it the next year. All right, so that's that. So then we get to Auburn at number 8. I think they're going to keep sliding, but they get the Iron Bowl. They'll get Bama. They'll get to show everybody what they're about instead of holding up these quality losses. You ain't beat nobody, though, Auburn. You ain't beat nobody. Florida beat you. You know what I mean? And that's the other thing. Like, you got to get to 11 before you get to Florida because Oregon's at 9. Everybody expects them to beat USC, but USC is good enough to beat Oregon. Wisconsin at 10 has the 2 losses, but it has the 2 losses to a really bad Illinois and an excellent Ohio State. I don't know if they come out of the West. We'll see what Minnesota has to say about that, and we'll see what Iowa has to say about that. But if you keep going through the top 25, nothing in here is particularly shocking except Washington State at number 25, who a lot of people don't know what to do with. So my takeaway from this ESPN Football Power Index exercise that we have been through, for the most part, is they're going to give you credit for how you have played the game, not necessarily whether or not you won or you lost, although that is terribly important. But because it's using predictive analytics, it's just going, we expect over 10,000 times for this to be the ranking, for this to be how people view these teams. And did you play well in your losses? Did you play superbly in your wins? And Ohio State has not lost, and all it has done is beat people by 2 touchdowns or more. I mean, they've just been destroying people. We could keep going on about how good they are, but you get the point. All right, that's it for me.